fuck got you into solvent?
Cannabis.
So it was cannabis.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had been in Los Angeles doing glass.
Yeah.
I'd been involved with glass since middle school, right?
Yeah.
I was selling bubblers for glass blowers back in the day.
Water pipes, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, water pipes, material called pipes. And yeah, I mean the Prop 215 thing was kind of raging when I moved to Los Angeles, and people that were buying $5,000 pipes were people that in some cases were doing very well with Proposition 215 and the medical industry that existed at that time.
So you saw that budding, that original market in Cali.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So which was the birthplace of legal cannabis in America.
And the conflict between the feds, right? Because at that time you had people that didn't give the state the sovereignty or whatever to be able to operate a medical license.
Well, and that was a crazy thing is not many people realize, like, when Cali first legalized or they did their 215, it wasn't accepted by the country. Like, they were like, yeah, fuck you. You're still breaking the law. And so to participate in 215, you pretty much still were an outlaw.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was no different than the year before they did it. You know what I mean?
The state gave you kind of like a hall pass, but there were a lot of other agencies.
It was like a punk hall pass. It was like, I didn't grow up with two parents, but I've seen the whole, don't tell your dad thing.
Right.
And it was kind of like that.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Like mom said it was cool, but if dad finds out, you're still getting whooped and mom ain't doing nothing to help you.
Right. And
you know what I mean?
Dad would come in and take all your cash, take all your plants, and then leave. I mean, they would just literally take everything and walk out.
Well, and the feds at that time were just robbing.
Yes.
They were just,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Fucking sorry if you don't like to hear it, but the feds at that time were just robbing people.
Yeah.
Because, and I say that because they were seizing, like you said, raiding, seizing, fucking disrupting life.
Mm-hmm.
And then wasn't many charges that came from it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure a couple poor fucking souls got fucked. You know what I mean? Don't fucking at me. Fucking, free fucking Willie. You know what I mean?
If I remember correctly, too, there was plenty of county sheriffs that would come and try and
get
in
everybody.
Well, they were trying to get in between the dispensaries and the feds were arresting sheriffs.
They were, and there was a lot of law enforcement, like you're saying, local law enforcement, that were like trying to take the mafia bribes.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll protect you. We won't have you raided. Fucking, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Pay us.
Well, and there's still criminal activity with mayors and things that took off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's 2023, I believe.
Yeah. It happened, I think, a couple of years ago that they charged them.
Of course, but they finally fucking booked them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's there's probably parallels and similarities to what was happening with Jack Daniels and Jim Beam 125 years ago.
Coming out of Prohibition.
Right.
So smart.
Mean, you had to have talented operators that were skilled at producing a product that people wanted to enjoy, that were forced into the forest or the back hills of Tennessee or whatever it is, that had to figure out how to kind of matriculate into the compliant licensed market. And how many of them didn't make it? How many of them, what was it that Jack and Jim did differently that allowed them to survive and scale into what they became?
Well, and it's funny to think about it that way. So as the cannabis industry is birthed, you have these companies, legacy companies, pre-market companies, a lot of times that were doing this, before, and have now turned into this legal side. And it is interesting to think about who's going to last. Mm-hmm. Just like thinking about Prohibition days, when, the bootleggers turned into, like you're saying, what we know as the top brands today in America. Sure. It's interesting to think about, what it took to, bridge that gap and actually, weather the storm and make it through all the regulation and all the bullshit I'm sure that the alcohol industry had to go through.
And car manufacturers, there's, like the History Channel has these old shows about old businesses and the men that made America, whatever it is. But the car manufacturers at the time, before Ford had that huge production line, there were other car companies. There were other, before Harley, there was another bike company that was the big bike company. And so what decisions made success and what decisions made failure? And
well, and you're right, in any new industry, you know, you name it, soda, you know what I mean? All the different soda brands, you know, and, you know, we have the giants that we have today, you know what I mean? And over 100 years, there's been a ton to come and go, you know, a lot that we've consumed, you know what I mean? And yeah, same thing with cars, you know, the Studebakers, the DeLoreans, you know what I mean? And there's so many that have come and gone, and like what separated, you know, those companies, and what made them last, you know? So no, it's cool to think about. It's, you know, especially as a business owner and somebody that wants to be the household name, in the country, in the world. It's really something that honestly keeps me up at night. Like, what do I do to be better? What do I do to have that edge? What do I do to be the name? You know, I want farmers to be, you know, one of the household names in concentrates and edibles across the world. And I'm sure you want the same with Solvent Direct. And I think that, in my opinion, that's what makes good companies good. And that's what makes certain companies stand out, is there has to be that lean towards, that strive towards being the best, that strive towards, you know, well, you guys say it awesome, you know, quality and integrity. You know, I obviously believe in quality too, put it in the name of my company, you know, Farmers Quality Concentrates. I wanted to make sure, now it leaves you open for scrutiny, obviously, but I wanted to make sure people knew that we were fucking serious. Like, we're not bullshitting, you know, we're putting it up there. Like, go ahead, say something, you know? And I think, you know, naming your company like that, giving your company a motto like that, it gives you something to strive for every day, something to be better at, something to, you know what I mean, set yourself apart from everybody else in your industry, and you name it.
Well, and we've got a unique opportunity to bring these products to a consumer base that never would have otherwise done it, right? They're comfortable with the little orange bottle and the pills that come inside.
Yeah.
But the plant-based concept is like foreign. And so for Solvent Direct, it's kind of like in honor of all the people that didn't get to this point, right? I've got friends that were murdered to the game, right?
Yeah.
And OD'd and all that kind of stuff, that never saw the opportunity to walk into a legal dispensary and select products from a glass case. And in with reverence, I feel we have an obligation to the industry to offer the best products we possibly can, because those headlines of the bad stuff, the explosions, the benzene, the low quality solvents, the shitty extracts, whatever it is, it's bad for the whole industry. It's bad for the history that we come out of, and it's bad for the future that we're headed towards. And so, yeah.
So, and speaking on that, so, you know, I can see, you know, as a solvent company, you guys have really, really two battles. You know, you want the purest, you know, cleanest product possible, but also you want people to be safe with it. Cause the last thing you want is, you know, a rack of your stuff, you know, on the news, you know what I mean? At a bad scene. Not that it would be your fault ever, but you want to imply and implore that safety measure, so you're not fucking wrapped up or connected to somebody being stupid or somebody being safe.
Well, and it's bad for the entire industry. I mean, every time that there's a headline that has something to do with BHO, it doesn't bode well for the new market, where the new fire marshal is trying to figure out how not to let people hurt themselves.
Yeah. Well, and everything. So I've noticed in this thing, and I know you keep on the news, and our friends keep on the news and keep up with the current events, but it seems like any fire at a facility is automatically blamed on BHO, blamed on butane, for those of you that don't know. But it could be an alcohol issue. It could be material dry, you know, in the sun and improperly stored. It could be so many things, but it could be a cooking fire. It could be, you know, in the kitchen. It could be, you know, grease fire or whatever, you know, classic, like, you know, kitchen fire. But it always, if it's a cannabis facility or if they have anything to do with cannabis, it's usually labeled as a BHO fire. In fact, I've seen news outlets report on it was a honey oil fire or whatever, extraction fire, when the company didn't even have the ability to extract. Like, they weren't extracting there. It was something else. You know what I mean? A lot of times, sometimes not even a bad thing. It was, common workplace accident. But no, you're right. Back to what you're saying is we have to give this industry a good name. We have to give this industry a good look if we want to push our companies to that level of the Jack Daniels, you know what I mean? The Coca-Cola. Because if not, they're going to over-regulate us and fucking push us out altogether. You've seen it. You've seen it in some states have banned solvent extraction, which is so hilarious because they'll let them do CO2 extraction. And if you understand CO2 extraction, you're upwards, 2,500 PSI, 10 times, 20 times what you are with butane or with a hydrocarbon. But that's okay. And it's because these regulatory agencies and these places just don't understand what the fuck's going on. And they're scared. Danger's all relative. You know what I mean? It's relative to safety. And how you handle things. And I think a lot of these regulators would rather, instead of understand what's going on, they'd rather just be like, all right, you guys can't do that.
Well, and it's because there's a stigma, because it's taboo. I mean, a lumberjack with a chainsaw could seriously hurt people. Also, it's a matter of kind of understanding and I mean, NFPA is still developing standards. I think 420 is coming out now, so it's kind of an evolving, moving target even to some extent.
It's actually version 420.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And what's funny is it's probably gonna have a bunch of cannabis stuff in there.
Oh no, it is. It's the cannabis NFPA chapter.
Okay, are they being cute or is it?
No, I'm pretty sure that's what they're legitimately calling. Yeah, I would want to consult probably with Barsky from C1D1, but I'm pretty sure I heard that. But yeah, and I mean, I think we need it because you've got this unprecedented application, right? Yeah. The industries and the companies that are using solvents, specifically flammable solvents, to produce food. I mean, Pam cooking spray has butane in it, right? There's all these applications for decaf coffee and the extraction of caffeine. That you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, there are other applications, but it's such a narrow field, and I think because this industry specifically, you don't have the monopolies, right? You don't have Coke and Pepsi of cannabis yet. And because you don't, you've got a lot of operators, which leaves room for a lot of error and bad headlines that create more fear and all that. So,
well, it seems like though these regulatory agencies are taking a step towards A, understanding that it's not going away, and B, me and you were talking on the phone about it. How long will the joint burn? You know what I mean? When somebody, leaves it burning, falls asleep on the couch. There's answers to all this about cigarettes. There's answers to all this about candles. There's answers to all this about, your comforter you use. Everything has this burn rating, these tests and this research done on it, so that insurance companies can A, deny, coverage, or B, show liability or whatever, or say, okay, yeah, that was what we thought it would do. You know what I mean? We'll cover it. And so it's crazy to see the world adapting to cannabis at that level.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of need to, because you're right. You hit on it. It's liability, right? Yeah. It's a liability lawyer that's going to expose the crack in the armor that's going to lead to some big penalty that's going to put some business out of. Bel Costa Labs in Long Beach, California is operated. I'm pretty sure the guy has a background as a product liability lawyer, and he got into analytical testing because he sees this need for regulation. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and it's funny because in ASTM, which I think is like 140 years old or maybe 125 years old, it used to be American standards for testing materials. They set a lot of standards for safe paint and VOCs and fumes and surfaces, and it's it's a lot of scientists in there that are really excited about the cannabis industry because it's an unprecedented, uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so many standards that could be or need to be written, as opposed to other industries. The petroleum industry doesn't have a lot of new standards coming out, right?
When it's all being written. So I think a big reason these guys are excited about it is they got a chance to get their name in the book. If they discover something, if they figure something out, it's going to say blah, 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 2023, 2024, 2025.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it's exciting because there hasn't been much new industry in the world. You know what I mean? There's only so much of it.
Yeah, no, I mean that is what makes this industry so cool. I mean, it's like
Agreed.
we're all pioneers to an extent, right? I mean,
and we all have that chance, like you just touched on, to be the next
big thing.
thing.
Yeah, right.
And who knows what level this grassroots stoner based company could make it, 2060, down the line when cannabis is sold in every fucking store, and it'll happen just like, we have cigarettes and alcohol. Eventually, like, cannabis will just be sold everywhere. And it's wild to kind of think about that. Because, I mean, think about it. Liquor stores, you don't just have liquor stores. You have liquor in gas stations. You have liquor in supermarkets.
Pharmacies.
You have liquor in, you know what I mean? You have liquor in restaurants. So, like, eventually, I believe cannabis will be the same thing, There will be your cannabis aisle at Walmart.
And I think it goes beyond that, right? Because you've got different applications of cannabis. Liquor is generally used to kind of get messed up, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you can use cannabis in a nutritional aspect, the same way you'd go to a GNC to get some kind of supplement or melatonin or protein or whatever it is. You're not using it necessarily to have a psychoactive effect. You're using it for a nutritional.
Well, and just tapping into the minors. The minor cannabinoids
100%.
are just fucking chock full of benefit,
right.
Without a psychoactive effect.
Right.
So yeah, no, you're.
And then you have medicine though.
Yeah.
So not only is there the nutritional aspect, but then you have the medical aspect. I had the privilege of meeting the guy that developed Epidiolex, the child epilepsy application.
Yeah, from there.
And that of course doesn't have psychoactive effects. It comes in pill form. It's in a little bottle.
What a fucking good feeling thing to create.
Yeah, right.
Can you imagine?
And I don't know if you've seen like
instant good karma for life,
right, for generations. But I've seen photos of a father holding like a Ziploc bag this big full of pills that his child was taking that didn't completely treat or cure.
Made his kid into a fucking zombie.
Right.
And the fucking kid probably had fucking constipation, digestive issues, fucking psych issues, fucking the side effect, this and that, rashes. I mean, you fucking name it.
And then the plant-based medicine comes along and all of a sudden there's like complete relief.
Well, don't you love how that's considered modern medicine? Don't you love how that's like the bag of pills is modern medicine,
right?
But fucking, taking some salve or some minor cannabinoids, that they've been using since ancient times. That's the archaic way
in this country. I mean, there's a lot of cultures that still use kind of alternative solutions or medicines or whatever it is, and they work in some cases.
Well, so we're in New Mexico, so it was common. And I don't want to butcher the name, you know what I mean, and piss anybody off culturally, but the medicine women, medicine men of Mexican culture would make a tincture with alcohol and cannabis.
Yep.
And they would use it not only orally, but they'd use it as a topical, fucking for you name it. And it was known
it's still used. I can tell you,
100%
I have
still
personal
used,
friends, families. The father would never touch cannabis to get high.
Yeah.
But he absolutely uses cannabis to create his own tincture.
Well, and what's funny is a lot of them would go see these people, these healers, and they wouldn't even know it was cannabis that was in, the secret potion.
Right.
It just fucking helped them.
Right.
So yeah, you had a lot of people that were, and in Mexican culture, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
They're either very against cannabis, like it's the devil, or they're very for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like that. It's like that in Colombia. In Colombia, there's this burgeoning cannabis market. But the idea of Snoop rolling up a blunt and smoking it in Colombia, that's like almost illegal, right? You can't you can't smoke flower.
Well, and to a ton of people, probably disrespectful too.
They
to
want
their
it,
whole culture.
They want it from a white lab coat. They want it to be something that's very much a medicine only. It's not something that's supposed to be, recreational.
Yeah, but look, with Colombia, we've seen it with Coke, is, you got a whole part of the country that's like, yeah, this is our main fucking export. And then you have a whole other part of the country that's in denial and like trying to stomp it out.
Yeah. Well, they're embarrassed. I can tell you they're embarrassed to some
Yeah.
extent. They don't want to be recognized as a culture that only produces cocaine. Every time you say Escobar to a business person in Bogota, they're looking at you like, well, fuck you, man. I'm a business man.
Yeah. Well, they're still dealing with his fucking hippos and shit,
Sure.
fucking terrorizing the fucking country.
Yep.
Like he put a huge like
Black cloud.
strain fucking black eye on.
Yeah.
on
Right. Yeah. And
So-
and the legitimate business operators, some of which have invested or begun to do cannabis,
Yeah.
they kind of have to live with the stigma of Escobar,
Mm-hmm.
Escobar.
Well, yeah, it's just, it's like us dealing with 280E. A dope dealer is a dope dealer in the mind of the ruling party,
Right.
and as much taxes as we pay and as much as we fucking shine ourselves up and talk right, we're still, the street side of what they consider, right or wrong.
But you're right with the taxes, because those taxes are going to parks and schools and programs that benefit communities.
Yeah.
And so I think as much as you might have that old kind of thinking, there's also people going, well, wait a second, this generates money for the community. And so it's.
Dude, I pay so much fucking taxes. I'm starting to feel like an old fucking man. Like I have rights. Like I have fucking rights. Like I have say in some shit. Like I want to go yell at a cop, like fucking some orders, be like, I pay you, motherfucker. Yeah, I just have like, I'm feeling like how you see the old people in the videos that are like super entitled about their tax money. Like I have paid enough taxes at this point where I'm feeling entitled. Like I want to yell at somebody, like give somebody some orders and demand something.
Well, and I think that kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier, being connected within the community, even within your competition, right? Because as an industry, we're kind of one, and that's, that I guess lobbyism comes out of, the food and beverage industry lobbying to keep their taxes lower, to the pharmaceutical stuff and that painkillers documentary. It's crazy how government can be influenced in that way. And if we are all, fighting each other to the death, it's.
Well, minimum safe banking needs to happen.
Yeah.
280 needs to fucking go away. Like, cool. They've been mad about Rick Ross and fucking him claiming shit on his taxes. Like, big deal. They need to get over it. Like, there's a whole new world out there. And the sad part is they're considering descheduling, but I don't think that would take away the 280E. Because it's any scheduled substance, I believe.
Yeah, I saw Ron DeSantis just publicly said he would not, it's fentanyl. God. It's all got fentanyl.
It's all got fentanyl. Fuck.
Right.
The thing with, I'm not saying nothing's ever been laced, but I think what people don't realize is drugs cost money. So like to just add free drugs to other drugs is
without telling and charging.
Without telling and charging is not really the business plan of any drug dealers out there.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying there isn't some fucking, I'm going to get a fucking DM about somebody's cousin.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fucking whatever. Right. I'm sure there's some fucking nefarious, evil fucking people, but they're the same people sending the white powder in the mail, fucking, you know what I mean, or whatever. They're fucking terrorists, at that point.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not dope dealers. They're not
right. That's not a good business model.
The herb man does not want to give
anthrax. You're thinking of anthrax.
Yeah. Fuck it. We shouldn't have said it. Fucking cut it out. Sorry. But yeah, dude. Your average dealer wants to continue selling. And to kill the competition is not, or to kill the clientele, not competition.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Right. No. Yeah. If you murder your customer, you're gonna have a problem. No. But more importantly, like if I had the opportunity, Mr. DeSantis, by not regulating it, you're leaving the door open for those bad actors. Pave a path for the good operator to do the right thing and give the consumer the opportunity to buy something that's safe and not laced. The logic seems upside down.
Politicians are fucking special.
Yeah.
Anyways, on that note, welcome to the Pharm Table, Lex.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited you're in town. you weren't in town too long ago, but we weren't able to get you on. So it's cool. I found out you were coming in today, and I was like, come on.
Yeah.
So,
No, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I recently started listening to some other episodes. I was like, whoa, this is a real deal.
It's mine and Jesh's hobby. We like to fuck around, and you know what I mean? We're
cool.
Jesh is good with the cameras and the audio. Cool. So
well, and giving visibility. I mean, I don't know how many I haven't listened to all your episodes, but specifically looking at extracts, like the sommelier in Napa Valley has all this. There's so much nuance to producing wines, and I feel like extracts, we don't have a lot of visibility into what it is.
Well, in the industry in general, and that's why we really try to bring people down. You're unique. You're the owner of Solvent Direct. Didn't introduce yourself, but
let's get an intro.
My name is Lexis, Lexis Shantz. I am the president and founder of Solvent Direct.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So we've never had a solvent company, and you're more than a solvent company. You guys do media and multiple other things, chromatography media, and like you said, you're a trucking company, you're a logistics company.
Yeah, I call myself a chemical and gas distributor.
Yeah,
because I certainly don't like to put that C word on labels, because that just causes more problems. Chemical and gas distributor, but I think we have at the core of our company a feeling of a partnership with operators like yourselves, right? The goal is to streamline supply chain, so it does cover different bases, but the consumable products that are being used in labs.
And you have, for those of you that don't know what consumables are, it's basically all the shit that we run through to produce extracts. Specifically, with you guys, we get ethanol, 200 proof, food grade ethanol, and butane, as well as chromatography media. And those things not only are used in high volume, but have to be perfect. And one of the things that attracted me most about your company is, like we talked about, your guys' motto, I felt was very online with what we were going for. In the fact that we needed clean, pure, quality products. And the other thing that we needed, which was really hard to find from other companies, is reliability and that supply, that almost no issue with supply chain. And that's something Solvent Direct has done. First solvent company to pull up in a marked truck. That's the first thing when your guys' truck came in to make the first delivery, I was like, Cody, look. And Cody looked out. He's like, what? I was like, look at the door on the truck.
It's a compliant DOT truck.
Well, it's a compliant DOT truck, and it says fucking Solvent Direct.
Yep.
It doesn't say FedEx or
third party
UPS or any of the other ones. It says Solvent Direct. So it right away I was like, oh. And for those of you out there that buy solvents, not everybody's doing that. Like, you get your stuff drop shipped or whatever. A lot of times solvent companies don't even touch the solvent, you know what I mean? And not to put anybody out there, but a lot of times they're just third party, logistics companies.
Well, if you look at, man, there's so much to unpack right there, but it wasn't just a motto, right? The concept of Solvent Direct isn't just a motto. It was access that I was providing. It wasn't just clean solvent. It wasn't just quality and integrity. It was supporting friends and family, because I come from the industry, with access to products that you couldn't get otherwise. At that time, if you walked into one of the major welding supplier packaged gas businesses, they would really scrutinize you and say, well, what are you using?
No, yeah.
Right? And
fuck, buying dry ice back in the day was fucking same thing.
They would kick you out.
Yeah,
you were just a peasant, And I think that that was the opportunity that I saw, that I took, and I hit the ground running with my own pickup truck, delivering stuff.
Well, I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say something else got you into Solvent, not cannabis. That's really cool that you saw the need for cannabis.
It was my friend.
It was
my friends. It was my friends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the time it was cans. It was Power 5 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
The Bosco Quan was the big
5 times purified.
Right.
Yeah, ready to go.
And it led to dangerous situations. And so when I saw that there was the ability
fucking PVC on the hill.
it was like, oh wow, there's an opportunity here to support my friends and family with products that I would feel comfortable, in consuming the extract. And I think the consistency and reliability part of what we do, it fits right into it. A lot of our competitors don't understand the pressure of being an extractor, right? You guys are under tremendous pressure, especially if you've borrowed money and there's some investor or shareholder that's sitting there going, where's my profit, right? They don't know about plants and extraction. They just want to see that pro forma, come through. And so and then the constraints, because of the kind of regulatory nature of what we're doing, a lot of labs are limited in how much they can even have on site, right? Yeah. And so now you have this demand thing, and they're scrutinized in ways. I can tell you, in California, there are cities that are the cannabis lab can only have 50 pounds of butane or LP gas on site.
Oh, it gets weird out there.
And the
county to county,
the 7-Eleven,
city.
Yeah, but the 7-Eleven 2 doors down has a crackhead outside smoking a crack pipe right next to a cage with 500 pounds of LP gas, propane. Yeah. So it's like it's just that we're being scrutinized.
Shout out New Mexico, RLD, LP. They treat us the same as the propane filling stations and stuff like that. As long as our facility can handle it, we are, just like somebody distributing, liquid pressurized gas.
Yeah, cool.
Which, in my opinion, the license should cover both.
Right.
You know what I mean? It should be similar.
Right. Not a double standard.
Not a double standard, which is what you're talking about, which is like, oh, you're using it for weed, you can only have this much. Oh, you're going to fucking
pothead.
You're going to supply anyone with fucking... Dude, what people don't realize, and I'll open the rant fully up. What people don't realize is, as far as burn injuries and like injuries, burn and explosion injuries across the country, it's fucking barbecue grills. It's barbecue grills, and we chuck propane fucking tanks at anybody.
Right.
Anybody.
Right.
Like, I think I could send my little kid in to go buy a fucking switch out the propane tank. No problem.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And we sell grills to anybody. And they are literally attaching a fucking hose to a liquid pressurized cylinder and then igniting the other end of it with some sort of valve.
Right.
And just hoping everything's contained and nothing goes wrong.
Right.
Dude, these grills are made fucking China fucking special. No offense. Shout out Shenzhen and the manufacturers out there.
Right.
But these things are made with nobody gives a fuck.
Right.
And they're hurting people all over the fucking country, and nobody bats an eye.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the fucking...
On top of that, you're literally lighting the solvent on fire right now.
Oh, yeah.
Burning it. Yeah.
The main tank.
And some of us that are pre-market, and I've seen some shit.
Well, but it's
in the right environment, it's not that crazy.
But it's a new application, and it's also like, we have to be on our best behavior because we
Of
are
course.
the bad guys. This is an industry that's full of
And I was just pointing out the double standard. Not that I think, you know what I mean, there should be any loosened regulations in cannabis extraction.
Right.
To an extent. Sad stories about people that have died, just processing cannabis, processing weed, plant fibers and not having proper ventilators, dust masks, whatever.
Yep.
And nobody should get hurt in cannabis. Cannabis is an amazing thing. It's such a versatile plant. It's such a beneficial plant from so many levels. You, in a sense, to work with cannabis, you feel almost a good energy, like you're doing something right. Nobody should be hurt doing it.
Yeah.
And that's where, I feel bad for, and it upsets me at the same time for anybody that's, been hurt, doing stupid shit, or, even just accidental, trying to produce, cannabis and cannabis products.
Yeah. I think manufacturing, I mean, how many people died building the Empire State Building and stuff? I mean, it's like,
you hear horror stories. Of course.
Right.
Of course. And, our fucking t-shirts we're wearing, I'm sure somebody got sucked into the fucking,
right.
the machine.
Right.
It was bad.
Right.
So, but at the same time, you want to, But it seems like you guys are really all about giving that safety aspect and trying to align with these companies, trying to align with local fire departments, regulators to kind of give that safety aspect to your solvent customers.
It's another way to support the industry that we love, right? I mean, that's basically what it is. And yeah, I think that part of the problem is that anything that you can't see is kind of scary, right? In the scary movie, it's where you're not shining the flashlight that the monster's hanging out. And so when something's foreign or different or unknown or dark or whatever, it's scarier. If we could create transparency in it, and it's really refreshing to see a healthy relationship with the LP gas board. You were telling me that you know, those guys are good guys. They're
really cool.
They're here to help. So it's just a matter of collaborating with them. And yeah, we've got to kind of cross this gap of where we come from, but and move into this new era of cannabis and specifically extracts in a way that makes them feel comfortable.
Well, and what I really respect about our gas guys is they study NFPA, you know, whatever version we're on, and they stand by it.
Right.
So as long as you're following NFPA, you know what I mean, they're going to stand by it, and you're going to be okay.
Right.
Which to me, I'm cool with that. I can read and interpret NFPA, and then I can do that to my facility, and I can stand there and be like, okay, we're following this,
right,
and be cool. It's when they put unrealistic shit in there. It's when they're you know, they're putting sneak stuff in there that you're kind of like, what the fuck? Why do I got to do that?
Right.
But when they're following something that's already been written and already been established, it's cool.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I can deal with that, you know. Yep. And he does. The state follows C1D1 NFPA C1D1 protocols for hydrocarbon you know, extraction.
Right.
And those have been set for a long time.
Right.
You know, there's been paint booths. You know, like you were talking about before, hydrocarbons are not new. Hydrocarbon gases, hydrocarbon liquid is not new to industry, to the
manufacturing.
World. You know, like you were saying with making decaf coffee, you know, stripping the caffeine off of coffee beans to multiple food productions, to extracting all sorts of stuff. You know, and then even to paint, you know what I mean? There's you know, hydrocarbon in a lot of automotive paints and different stuff that, you know, to apply the paint. So these rooms and these booths and these areas have already been established, and safety protocols for these areas have already been established. So it's nice to see regulators actually looking at those established things and being able to say, okay, you know, same, you know what I mean? And being able to understand that they're similar and you can use similar safety methods for those areas. And
have realistic expectations about
Correct.
How it's being done without putting somebody out of business because they're over regulating or over interpreting that law. But yeah, it's the consumer too, though, right? Because the consumer has, in some cases, the stigma that a solvent is a very bad thing, and that's, you know, the CO2 guys and the rosin guys, they like to play into that because it's good for their businesses. But there are precedents for using solvents in a responsible way and offering the consumer a safe and responsible product.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of pharmaceuticals are using very dangerous chemicals to produce pharmaceutical drugs.
Of course. And there's multiple food processes, like we said, that use much worse than some clean butane to process their food and to get you, you know, what you all know and love. The key to it, and what I think that Solvent Direct really stands on, is purity.
Yep.
And cleanliness, because it's one thing using clean butane. We know as processors and as chemists how to get rid of that. You know, we can use, you know, thermodynamics and different applications to remove that clean solvent. What we often can't do is remove what else is there. So if it's dirty, if it's shitty, we often, you know, we're fucked. Yep. And it's contaminated our product.
Yep.
And like you said, we're under a huge amount of scrutiny, a huge amount of pressure, not only to just exist in a fucking, you know, stigmatized industry, but also by our clients. You know, you take your car to the shop, you don't want to fucking hear the guy tell you that it's going to be another month because there was a problem,
Right.
or another week or another day. Funny story. I was just fucking told that about my fucking truck, but it sucks. So no, we are under a lot of scrutiny to get it right the first time.
Right.
And by having a company that, you guys are on it, shout out Ilya. She fucking, my phone was going off. I'm like, Solvent Direct, what the fuck? I just fucking talked to Lex. He's in my parking lot. What do you guys want? And it's Ilya on point. And I've told you this, that you guys have one of the most aggressive sales teams I've ever come in contact with. But that's a good thing in my book, because aggressive in the fact of they do not miss a call. They do not miss a drop off. They do not miss a beat. I don't even know I need the solvents that I need. And Ilya's fucking there.
She knows.
She knows. She knows. What she knows how to do is her job, and she does her job well. And she knows that you guys are coming every 2 weeks, and she's got a job to do, and that's sell me. Not even sell me. She's got a job to provide me what I need.
Yeah.
She's never gotten mad. She's never, you know what I mean? Not aggressive in that way. She's never gotten mad. She's never broken my balls, whatever. You did once. You asked me if I was still in business because fucking we didn't order fucking $10,000 more dollars of solvents.
It's
wrong, man. I haven't talked to you in like 3 weeks. What's you're fucking? But
everything okay?
yeah, and but no, your guys are on it. And the one thing I'll give you is you guys deliver. Literally, you deliver on whatever you're calling about, but it shows up. It shows up when you say it. It does, and it's good, clean product.
Well, the routine, the supply chain to be able to get you that clean cylinder.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's weak.
Because you guys are not in New Mexico.
No, we have a presence here. We deliver here, but no, we don't have a physical operation or distro.
And you're
center
just here visiting. You're on some business,
right?
So.
We have. But the supply, it's 6 weeks for that butane cylinder to come back empty from a customer, to get shipped back to a centralized cleaning plant, to be cleaned and decontaminated to a certain spec, and then certified, and then refilled, and then put back on the shelf. And so I think with any commodity, the ability to see downfield and the forecasting that helps you with your supply chain and the negotiations that go into costing, right? Because the more visibility that I can give to one of my vendors gives me better buying power that can then be extended to an extractor to be savings, to save them. But that is a long process. And so we're in this routine, and my team, and thank you for that shout out, because they do work hard. They are tuned into the demand or the need that you have, because if you don't have the solvent, your guys, Cody and your team, they can't run.
Well, and so I always push it off to Cody. So I'm like, dude, what are you calling me for? Do you need me to approve an order?
Well,
I don't know what they need, Ilya. Fuck, I don't know. Jesus.
Ilya, please get Cody's number on dial.
Oh,
and
she
leave
has
Donald.
it. She has it. Right. No, and I love her. Yeah. I love her contacting me. Because dude, I approve the purchases and everything. And I will. Cody's in there fucking running circles. So a lot of times I go and tell, hey, Cody, talk to Ilya. Yeah. Do you need anything? And he'll be like, oh, yeah, I need this. And I'm like, well, fuck, it's a good thing they're coming in 3 days, because like you didn't tell me, why did you call them?
Right.
And so no matter how good, my crew, anybody's crew is, it's nice to have the Ilyas out there anyone out there that is willing to check up and just, like I said, do their job, and just, if you guys are coming every 2 weeks, then yeah, she should be calling, she should be on it. And she is. And that's beautiful.
I learned a long time ago, if you don't have your supply, you've got overhead, you've got bills to pay, you've got all these expenses, you can't operate.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you and your team could sell anything. No, I'm serious. You fucking, what if shit doesn't go, if shit goes downhill, just jump to anything, because you have such an amazing team, and that the logistics you figured out, the state to state logistics are amazing. The sales you figured out, the marketing, everything you've done with the company is amazing. So yeah, no, you guys could sell anything. Well, it's because it's the service that makes it special,
which is everything, right? And for a pioneering extractor that's focused on turning a profit for that investor or for themselves or for whatever it is, we need to be, we say engineered for extraction. Everything we do is engineered for extraction. So maybe we could get away with selling something else, but our forklift is outfitted for that tote of ethanol.
Of course.
And that's where we differ from some of those other. I mean, on the
I'm
chemical,
gauging that off your guys' tenacity and your guys' ability to function as a well-oiled machine.
Thank you. I mean, a lot of, if you look at Archer Daniel Midland, that's a huge, and I think I said that name right. ADM is a huge food manufacturer. They're buying truckloads of solvent months in advance because they have the MAQ for the storage. They don't have any constraints. They've got the cash flow. They're huge
no regulators giving a fuck about how many
the regulator is being paid off to not give a fuck. So
the regulator goes golfing with them.
And so they have that ability to sustain that, whereas a lot of extractors are more hand to mouth. A lot of these mom and pop businesses that are trying to pay and pay the taxes and keep themselves compliant, they need that delivery once a week, and it's got to be on time.
Well, I'll tell you what I appreciate is I remember when I didn't know if I could afford my solvent 1 week to the next.
Right.
And a lot of times I had to wait to make that order and wait to get solvent to even, operate. Right. So having a company that is there, even for the small guy that's not, getting tons and tons of solvent, and willing to, show up, you know what I mean, at the doorstep, that's huge, man. That's huge, especially, New Mexico's small. There's not a lot of huge extractors out here. We're one of the biggest. But to get that Cali level, you know what I mean, big industry treatment out here is nice. And you guys do. And I know you do it for me, and I know you do it for guys that are buying a percentage of what I buy. It's just how you guys treat your customers. So,
well, I was a small guy. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I get it. It's and the small guys develop into big guys. You know, I mean, like that's how the nature of the industry is. You had to be a small guy at one point. So I think every extractor deserves that opportunity. Again, it's like my heritage. I didn't come from a packaged gas family or a chemical family. My brother and partner and I, we've learned everything the hard way. We try to make it look like we've got it all figured out, but sometimes we're banging our heads against the wall. Yeah, right.
That's what we all do it.
But it's exciting to be able to support pioneers, entrepreneurs, extractors, chemical engineers, alchemists, whatever you want to call this industry. It's
hash ratchets.
There you go. Right. I mean, this is something that I'm passionate about, and being able to support you guys all the way down to that 6-week lead time and running our own tractor trailers and the headaches that come with that. Shout out Juan, who's probably sleeping in his sleeper right now in the bunk, driving cross country to keep shelves stocked for us.
So where are you guys based out of?
Headquarters is Southern California.
Southern California.
Yeah.
And you guys have physical locations in other states as well?
Yes, there's two sides.
Arizona, right?
Yeah. Yep. There's two sides of the business: order processing and fulfillment. Right. The fulfillment teams are all local, from Oklahoma to Oregon to California, you name it. There's great guys out there that are basically taking those orders, getting them onto the back of the truck, and making those deliveries same day, next day, whatever it is. Then you have the order processing side of the company. That's where Ilya works. Right. Okay. She works in kind of the central command center. It's like NASA. I picture NASA where we're watching the screen and the trucks are moving. Yeah. We've got some cool software so we can see where all the trucks are. Those are the guys and gals that are reaching out to the customers, making sure that we're getting the orders on time and then fulfilling those orders on time. So there's two sides of the business. There's that order processing, which is headquartered in Southern California, and then the branches that are fulfilling those orders.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then how many states are you guys servicing?
I haven't really counted this up, but I can tell you that we're Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. Out of Oklahoma, we hit Missouri and Texas. And then we've got some partner distributors in Michigan, Massachusetts. And if I could have my way, I'll be selling butane on the moon here soon.
Yeah.
Just gotta find
well, and that's the goal.
Yep.
And I know we talked about it before about different countries and different stuff like that. That's cool, man. It's really cool to see somebody that is going after, you know what I mean, the moon, going after, because there's a lot of men are complacent. A lot of people are complacent. They start doing something and they're like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
no, I don't. Yeah,
yeah,
you said yourself at night.
Yeah.
It's like, what can I do better? How
Yeah,
can I
of
be
course.
stronger, faster? Yeah, more productive, whatever it is, better quality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was something I was really impressed with when you had the block party with Good Life Gang. You know, you guys were washing up the fire truck,
Yeah.
and there's just a culture at this facility. Not only is this facility just top shelf, but there's a culture here of people that really give a shit about the products they're making. And that's something that money can't buy, that pro formas can't calculate, that Chad can't invest in. It's something that is the root of this culture, and that's something that's really special.
When I recruit a team member, I'm looking for a couple things. Obviously, intelligence. You know, all business owners want intelligence in their employees and their team members. But I also look for heart. And I think that's that deep down cheesy shit that people don't want to really realize is to make a quality, perfect product, the people have to love doing it. You cannot sit there and say, oh, fuck this shit. I hate my fucking job. Oh, this place sucks. And do a good job and make a quality product. That, and then, you know, whatever, call it cheesy, call it mystical, call it whatever, that energy transfers into whatever you're doing. So if you have employees that don't want to fucking be there, in my opinion, get the fuck rid of them. You know, everybody hates their job to an extent. There's like, you know, whatever, quote unquote hates their job. People don't really understand the meaning of that word. But if you have employees that really don't want to be there, I am such a firm believer of let them go, get rid of them. Like, just talk to them, tell them, like, you don't want to fucking be here. Like, you know what I mean? And I really feel I have the polar opposite of that. I have guys that want to be here. They not only love cannabis and love extracts and edibles, they love farmers and they love the clients that come here and they truly care about what they're doing. And I really look for that heart when we hire somebody on, when we bring somebody on. And I think it makes, you know, it makes it world of this.
It absolutely does. When I first met you, you were showing us your chocolate selection. I was blown away. I mean, it was like I was at a chocolatier in Switzerland's, you know, workshop, except everything had some special sauce in it. But like, I mean, it is a craft, you know, and I think that's where the similarity is with wine. I think there's so much nuance and so much that goes into it. And those sommeliers up in Napa will talk to you all day long about all those details. And it's something that I'd like to see more visibility into, not just the quality solvent and what we can do differently to produce clean inputs for these products, but then the craft and the love that goes into making that product that makes it a special thing.
There's some amazing companies across the country. I really am a firm believer that the cream rises to the top in any situation. I do think that, you know, these companies that we're seeing, you know, stand out in each market will be the forever brands, you know what I mean? The legacy brands moving forth into, you know, industry future. And it's exciting. It's exciting to go to BizCon every year and see these, you know, these guys and, you know, a lot of them have become friends of mine and I'm sure friends of yours through the Good Life Gang and different networking opportunities. But it's really cool to see these guys, you know, hitting success. It's sad to see a lot of them, you know, going through hard markets like New Mexico's going through it right now. You know what I mean? It was super, super hot, you know, in the beginning of adult use, and it's definitely plateaued out and we're saturated and all this shit. You know, boohoo. But it happens.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? Markets are fucking up and down.
And that's business.
Every market.
That's business. It's capitalism.
And where it plateaus and where it stops is not always, you know what I mean? There's plenty, you know, going back to the alcohol industry, we always quote, there's plenty of dudes that fucking still wish, you know, beer was $10 a fucking bottle. Right. You know, it's whatever now. I'm not a drinker, so fucking Google it. You know what I mean? Don't have me, but it's whatever, $1.50, $2 a fucking bottle now. Like right. There's a standard for it. Like I'm sure at one time they got fucking premium craft fucking beer, price for it. And some of them still do to an extent. There's expensive shit on the shelf.
Right.
But to bang in the, you know, countrywide, worldwide, beer industry, you got to be Anheuser-Busch or one of these mega companies with a mega factory that's pumping out those $1 beers, $2 beers. And then of course there's room for the craft companies, but they're much smaller and their beer's not in fucking South Africa and, just shit like that. You know what I mean? Budweiser or whatever, Bud Light, these beers are all over the world and a lot of times, a lot of situations. So, it'll be interesting to see who, goes that level, sells out to the Johnson and Johnsons and shit like that.
Right. Well, scale is sustainability, right? That's kind of like, the efficiencies of scale is everything. And that's why it's impressive to see businesses that are capable of going beyond that little craft operation and producing scale products.
One of the hardest things is scaling without that investor, without that, partner that's bringing money to the table. When you're starting something from nothing, it's very difficult to reach those scale points without taking on some sort of debt or some sort of
but
deal.
Then you answer to somebody else. I mean, I don't want to name names, but in the extraction supply and extraction equipment side, there's been some big acquisitions of companies that were built on care and
there's been
and
some
craft.
fucked up situations recently, and I'm sure you know what we're talking about, but there was a lot of companies. We won't say any names. There's lawsuits, I'm sure, and there's all kinds of fucking shitty stuff, and a lot of people, I know and care about were affected by it, but a lot of really good big name companies, sold out to the big guy and a specific group, and they all got fucked.
Yeah.
I've talked with friends. There was very few that made it out of that deal not getting fucked.
Happy. Yeah, right.
And I still don't know if anybody was happy.
Right, yeah. Right.
But and it's a sad story.
Right.
And a couple of them are pretty good friends of mine, and they built amazing, really cool, amazing things that were pioneering to our industry, and basically got fucked out of it. You know what I mean? They thought they were getting something good out of it. You know what I mean? Obviously. But it didn't end up good. And we still haven't seen the full aftermath of that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Will, the biggest thing, and if you know, we're still not going to say the names out of respect for people that were negatively affected by it. But a lot of people have this equipment, it's multiple companies, equipment companies. Who knows if the support for that equipment is going to be there?
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So, and who knew, these people, warranties are sold, all kinds of stuff is sold. When you buy something, from, an equipment company, you're promised a certain level of support with that product. Fuck, a lot of times you don't have money to buy like the whole thing. So you're like waiting to get more money to like add on to this modular thing you bought. And for a company like that to just is sad, and it's fucked. And sure, once again, other industries have seen it happen, 10 times over, but to see like some of these beloved companies, you know what I mean, that we all like saw start out with us and before us kind of get folded up in that bullshit really, really sucks.
Yeah. Well, and that's where if you have to bring in the investor to be able to scale, you got to make sure that you're making good moves with that.
Yeah.
And making strategic decisions.
Spend the money on good lawyers, good, you know what I mean, up front.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're going to spend your money on anything and you're going to go into something like that, a big buyout or a big partnership or whatever, just know who the fuck you're dealing with. Know what the fucking looks like. Yeah. Like, know how you could end up bad. Because like through every contract, you know what I mean, there's a good side and a bad side. Yeah. Like, if this happens, it could end up this way. Or if everything goes right, it ends up like this. So know both sides of that contract. Yeah. Because, and we can give a little bit of insight to it, but in this deal, a lot of these guys sold their companies for shares
that aren't worth shit
in this new fucking company,
right.
In the mega company, right? In the whale that swallowed all the little companies. Well, what happens when the whale dies?
Yep. Right.
You just die with the whale
shares,
because you have no shares.
Yep.
So even if the fish were inside in the stomach of the whale while it was swimming along,
It's all
once it
dead
died,
now.
they can't get out.
Right.
And it's fucked. It's fucked.
And I've seen it on the operator side, and the same deal.
That's
A talented extractor signed some big fancy deal, was excited by the shiny fish hook. They didn't have a lawyer look at that deal carefully. The guy running it, controlling it, didn't give a shit about what quality.
Triggers.
Yeah, right. They tank it, and the guy's sitting there with nothing and years that he invested.
Well, and the classic for the extractor is the triggers, like I'm talking about in the contract that they don't read, where basically it's your company, you take the money from them, it's your company with them, you fulfill a certain time limit, it's their company.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you get paid something. It's never great, and it's never what you could have made like selling your company.
Right.
You get fucked out of it. You know what I mean? It's a brain drain.
Yep.
You let these people in, you give them everything.
Pump and dump. They call them pump and dump sometimes. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, these investors, you know what I mean? These money men know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
They're collecting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Bone collectors.
Right.
They're collecting these motherfucking businesses and shit and fucking these smart, artistic, genius minds, the ones that had the idea, the creative ones that just didn't have the money.
Yep.
So they sell their soul
or the business experience. I mean, it's like, somebody that perfected a craft and might have done it back in the traditional market, and they were doing it. They don't know how to cope with what's happening in the industry now. And that's again what we do at Solvent Direct is like, how can we help you guys come and take it to like farmers? I mean, it's how do you take it to the next level? And how do we become the Jack Daniels?
Well, and I told you about it before when we talked about, BizCon and stuff. Is I think it's simple. Obviously, you got to have a good idea. You got to have a good work ethic. You have to understand branding and marketing. But then past that, you have to be willing to bleed.
Yeah.
You have to 100% understand that you're going to have to spend a lot of fucking money, and you're going to lose money, and it's going to be fucking painful.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys can't humble themselves to that level.
Yeah.
They just don't know how it is to lose money, and B, they're not willing to reinvest the money
in the future. Make. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get the money and it's gone.
Yeah. Right.
It's either partied away,
right.
Big house, big cart away, it's gone. And you have to be able to reinvest in yourself. You have to, don't take on the fucking debt. That's one thing we tried our fucking best to not take on any fucking debt. Right. Every dollar we made was rolled right back into the company.
Right.
And like I said, we were tenacious. We had a great team put together, and we went after certain aspects. But at the end of the day, we were able to fucking bleed.
Right.
And if you want a good company, if you want a successful whatever, you got to be able to fucking go.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's a marathon. I mean, there is this show, I think, The Men That Built America or something. There's one on cars, Chevrolet, Dodge, Ford.
Yeah.
And what they were doing to compete against each other. And it's decisions that can make or break you. And yeah, reinvesting in the future is something that, I mean, we as a company are constantly thinking about, well, if we spend that to buy another tractor trailer, we can reduce the transportation cost that can be passed on to the extractor, and we can now continue to keep the lights on in a commodities business.
And that's an asset.
Yeah, right.
At the end of the day, belly up, fucking sell it off. You know what I mean? It's all assets. It's all smart. And that's the same thing with equipment. That's the same thing with, the level we brought the facility to, we're reinvesting back into the company. I know that it makes a difference, and we've proven to the state, and we're about to prove to the entire country, hopefully the world one day, that we can make a difference, in multiple markets. You travel the country, I've traveled the country. Most of these places a good majority of them are rough. You know what I mean? Shout out all the homies with the rough labs, but a lot of these places are rough, and not just rough as in they don't have the money to make something big and huge. they're just, a lot of these places are dirty. A lot of these places are not safe. A lot of these places are, you know, not doing it right.
Yep.
And I really want to see like the industry turn that corner to where there is that standard, and it has to look like this. You know what I mean? It has to be a certain level of clean. And even, you know, even if you aren't the, you know, $1 billion backed company, you still have to keep even your fucking little room fucking spick and span.
Yep.
And I want that level to be achieved across the entire industry.
Yeah. And I think it's coming. I mean, it's coming. If federal prohibition ends, we're going to be in a situation where you've got a whole new set of regulators that can come in and start looking at facilities and setting the standards. That's why when I was telling you about ASTM, it's really in the interest of getting more operators in there, because right now you've got all these scientists and professors and university people
theorizing.
Yeah, right. They're kind of guessing at what and they want hands-on operators. One of the last meetings, they were talking about what they can do to recruit real operators.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I got a phone book full.
Just drop the drug test, boys. We'll be right there.
Right.
And they need it. And you know, we're seeing it with our regulators too. You know, CCD out here wants experienced people to, I mean, they're throwing job fairs, they're reaching out. They want feedback from the community. They want feedback from the operators. They want experienced people to come apply and help the program. So you do have certain places that are really like, help us, like, let's do it right. You say we suck. You say, oh yeah, you guys don't fucking smoke. You guys all suck. Come help us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's shout out to all of those places that are understanding they don't understand.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Collaborative.
And admitting that this isn't their thing. You know what I mean? And inviting, you know, cannabis people and real culture people to the table. But at the same time, the culture people have to show up to the fucking table.
Sure. Right.
And I think you have this big, you know, I'm not discussing my day.
Right. Yeah.
Mentality with the regulators and these organizations and these governing bodies, where the cannabis community doesn't really trust them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we've been fucking stigmatized
For
and
years.
prohibited and fucking treated like criminals and fucked with, and are still like given this, you know, very segregated treatment.
Yeah.
You know. And, you know, boo-hoo, but it's fucked up.
No, collaborating with them. I think it's that thing, being scared of the dark. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to deal with it. And so they're just going to throw the book at it, or they're going to over-regulate it. And it's like, if we could show them the power of solvent-based extraction and the ability to separate cannabinoids, there's a ton of value in it. And let's just put our heads together and collaborate on it.
So what's next for Solvent Direct? What's around the corner for you guys?
Oh man, we've got a lot happening. I think the ability is to follow the licenses, right? I mean, that's where it's, you know, it's kind of constantly watching where those calls coming in from. North Dakota has been calling a lot lately, right? I know that there's not a huge addressable market there.
Wait, the map's pretty green.
Yeah.
If you bring up, now it's different shades of green.
It is, you're right. There's different levels to this.
So,
yeah.
But it's almost all green.
Yeah.
I think there's like 4 fully prohibited states.
Yeah.
And Texas isn't even one of them anymore.
Right. No, Texas
They are a shade.
Yeah.
I heard you say Texas, and I wasn't even going to say what are you doing there, because I know there's some.
There are licensed BHO extractors in Texas, and we proudly supply some of them.
Yeah. For CBD, or
no, there's THC, but there's limits. Yeah, it's a limit to it, and then there's
like hot hemp.
There's some medical research, I think, licenses floating around down there.
Well, good for you.
But I think it's 38 million people in Texas, right? I mean, that's a huge
people
market.
Don't fucking realize it.
Yeah.
People don't realize it, and you know, the effect Texas has had on this market is huge.
Really
huge. And
with the border dispensaries.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's just
iceberg.
Oh no, it's the fucking hair that falls off of Texas's head. Like there's 38 million people.
Yeah, right.
You don't realize what kind of number that is. What's our population, Josh? Not that, like 4 million?
No, I don't even. There's not even that. Nowhere's near that. I don't
Two?
think.
What do we
I
got in
think
New
we're at,
Mexico?
Like 1.5.
New Mexico, 1.5?
Yeah, let me look.
It's fucked off because we're like a third, or if not bigger than Texas, or if not, what are we like? You're like a third.
2.1 mil.
Yeah.
Okay.
2.1 mil Texas.
And New Mexico's big. And yeah, no, we.
Yeah, a lot of empty, fucking useless desert.
Sorry,
Yeah.
29 million. 29 million
Still,
in Texas.
still,
a lot of
it's
people
lots.
to buy
Yeah,
cannabis.
we always just say
Yep.
Google it.
Yep.
Because it's not
Don't
our
try to go.
it's not our
statistical.
job to sit here and spit. We're not the fucking fact checkers.
Right.
So you can
Well,
do that.
there was a hemp expo in Dallas before the pandemic, 2018,
Yeah.
2019. And I was blown away at the 10-gallon bucket hats that were walking around going, how do I get into this? You
Oh, of
know?
course.
Yeah.
Of course. Because money is money
Yeah.
from state to state to state. And I don't care what their grandpa told them or what they grew up believing on. At the end of the day, once they get a certain level of money, they want to make more money with it and they look for things that make money. So yeah, I mean, the hemp market has proven to be weird as fuck.
Mhm.
There's people making money. Not necessarily the way it should have gone.
Right.
But the farmers definitely didn't. The farmers got fucked. You know, and now we have this whole slew of analogs. What the fuck? Conversions, isomers, whatever you want to call it. All the colorful versions of THC and minor cannabinoids made from CBD.
Right.
The feds have spoken pretty loud and clear on this stuff. That yeah, they take back whatever you thought about the Farm Bill, and that basically turning CBD into these different things is going to get weird.
Yeah.
And they're looking at it as you know, not what they're allowing.
Right.
I've read the analog laws, and I understood them, and I never really thought that this was gonna fly.
Right.
What has happened? And you now have like prohibited areas that have fucking THCA fucking products and Delta 8, Delta 11, fucking THCV, and don't quote me, look it up. Go to your local fucking gas station in your prohibited area. And they're all claiming to be made out of CBD under the hemp farm bill.
Right.
And the DEA is like, oh, no, that's not what we fucking meant, motherfucker.
Right.
No,
Right.
no.
Right.
And if you understand the analog laws and you look back at why those were created and what happened there is, MDMA, different stuff like that. They started realizing, hey, we should fucking not let people have like as much access to this stuff. We should tighten up, rules on it a little bit. And then the chemists just made another fucking version of it. They're like, okay. And they were like, well, cool, this one's illegal, but this one's not. So then they got real fucking, and don't quote me, Google it, whatever, look it up. Ask somebody that knows it a little better. But they started getting pissed that, people were just finding loopholes and making different versions of a drug.
Yep.
So the feds got together and said, you cannot make any other drugs. You cannot make any drugs into other drugs through different things.
Chemistry.
Synthesis, conversion. And they're analogs of the first drug.
Yeah.
So through the processes that, a lot of these guys are using, that's exactly what's happening. And so the fucking feds are freaking out about it. And so it's going to be real interesting to see where that market kind of goes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Isn't the Farm Bill up for renewal or
I don't know.
change or something?
I don't know.
I think somebody was mentioning that the other day. It's really just ending prohibition, right?
Yeah.
I mean, once we get
See, I'm in this weird place because I despise like politics and all this stuff and stuff like that. But because of my industry and because of our industry, the industry, I'm forced to like pay attention.
Mhm.
Like it's truly like I've got the clamp on my head, fucking eyes held open to the fucking
Yeah, right.
because I have to see what's happening because it directly affects, you know, our day-to-day existence as a business in this industry. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I don't know if it's up or not for redo, but
yeah, I'm not totally on top of everything, but we try to watch it because it kind of determines where the phones are going to start ringing from next. New York. I mean, New York is starting to pop off, right?
When they've got so many injunctions and weird shit. And
yeah.
who can do it? Who can't?
Right. The best part is every bodega in New York City has all the California brands on the shelf. I mean, all of your big names out of
all the fucking CBD fucking conversions.
So to clarify the DEA thing, Delta 9 THCO and Delta 8 THCO are tetrahydrocannabinols, have similar chemical structures and pharmacological activities to those contained in the cannabis plant. And they sent a response letter. They do not occur naturally in the cannabis plant and can only be obtained synthetically, and therefore do not fall under the definition of naturally grown hemp.
Yeah. So what was that? D8, D9, and THCO for the short.
And they're calling
all the good ones.
They're saying it's Delta 9 THCO and Delta 8 THCO.
So it's THCO acetate is what they're talking about, which is a wonderful, wonderful compound.
Yeah.
That I'm very fond of. And yeah, we'll let them go ahead and say what they said on it. But yeah, so they're basically saying you can't make that shit out of CBD.
You can't make it out of anything.
Anything.
Those chemicals, no matter where they can come from, those.
No. It's pertaining to CBD, to the Pharm Bill.
Right.
Because, okay, so you're right. Let me take that back. You're right. It has to be naturally occurring in the plant.
Correct.
So you can extract cannabis, well, under their fucking views, no. But you can, under that interpretation, you can extract cannabis because Delta 9 is naturally occurring. But it's not naturally occurring in pure form in the CBD plant.
Right.
Is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's going to change a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, kids are getting into those gas stations in probably Texas and grabbing something, and it has a psychoactive effect.
Well, and the O is super bioavailable, passes the blood-brain barrier very well. And just has and it and I don't want to say this loosely, but the other thing that has an acetate attached to it is heroin, and that gives you the smack of the opiate, is that ability for it to pass that barrier. So when that same structure is added to THC, it allows the THC to be that much more available,
bioavailable,
and so they say when you take a hit of something or whatever, you're only getting so much THC or whatever. Your body only absorbs so much. This compound allows your body to get it all.
Right.
So it feels fucking great, especially for those that have a high tolerance, and are in a sense, chasing the dragon with no pun intended, with cannabinoids, but not feeling that same high anymore. THCO just fucking obliterates that. Right. So yeah, it's the fun ones. They don't want anybody to have fun with anything. So
interesting times.
Yeah. But I mean, the problem is the ones they listed are all the intoxicating psychoactive ones. So that's what they're pissed about. Is people are getting high,
where
they're not supposed to be getting high.
That's what they don't want.
And the gas stations and smoke shops and all these people are like, no, Farm Bill, motherfucker, Farm Bill. And
right. It's about time, though. I mean, I'd rather have that.
How many millions and billions of dollars have been made
on
running that loophole?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Oof.
There's
it's an industry.
Yes.
And then I wonder how it's going to be affected now that we kind of,
by change.
or even if they're gonna enact, regulate, enforce, what they're saying. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in some states, some places, some, local establishments that are, they're getting zapped, and these items are being taken off their shelves, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
If it's in a gas station, there's demand.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why it's in the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
People want to buy those
of course.
things. Yeah,
of course.
Right.
Of course. Well, and the thing is, we grew too much fucking hemp.
Yeah.
And these motherfuckers had to figure out something to do with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, the farmer got fucked, but everybody that figured out something to do with it usually wasn't the farmer. But yeah, it just,
Interesting scenario. Upon a federal legalization, would the same thing happen with cannabis? Think they're going to grow too much of it?
Of course, fucking yes.
Yeah. I mean,
the American way.
I mean, that's going to change the.
Does a bear shit in the woods, Josh?
That would change the industry drastically from ancillary all the way to direct growers and the market in general, right?
But we're seeing that. We're seeing that consolidation in most markets. I mean, I think I'm even hearing it a little bit here in New Mexico, but California, the landscape is changing quickly. And I mean, drastically. Because the big shareholder backed Chad managed
they didn't get paid.
Right.
They didn't get paid.
And they had
so many lost.
Put revenue on the books, and so sell it at a loss.
And I know you've seen this, because especially where you live, where you're at, where you've seen, where you've been at. There's so many levels of money.
Sure.
Like there's so many levels of money, and coming from nothing, the first level seems like really huge, you know what I mean? And and then you realize like there's so much more. You know what I mean? You get your fucking, 20-foot fucking boat, and you're all happy about it, and then the fucking yacht pulls up. You know what I mean? Did you see? I just saw Michael Jordan's yacht.
Oh, it's
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Know what I mean? Like $53 million yacht or some shit.
A fucking basketball court on there.
It's a cruise ship. It's what my poor ass fucking not poor anymore, but
book a room.
There's rooms. Let's just put it that way. Like but
right.
There's so many levels to money. And if you don't realize that, it's such a hard pill to swallow, especially on your path to success too. If you think you're going to hit the moon fucking, you know what I mean, in one day, you know what I mean? And then you realize like what it takes to get there, and how many people are ahead of you or whatever. There's so many levels to it. And I think with investors and people that go into, cannabis, there's so many levels to it. There's people that, have huge backing, and it's just this like unlimited, and they're very rare. And they're the ones that, either go like really south, like MedMen south or whatever. Right. Even though they are back just redonkulously.
Right.
Or they're the ones that go really big.
Right.
And they're just,
well, and those are those
super backed
pivotal decisions that you make, whether it's with a an investor or whatever it is.
Who you bring in.
Yeah, right. And how do you do it? And what do you, I was just talking to somebody about, they make what customers want to buy. That's they're not going to sit there and hold their nose in the air.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to sell what sells.
So many decisions along the way in business that you have the opportunity to either make the choose the right path, or just completely fucking cripple, maul, whatever you're trying to do.
Yep.
And I think that really decides at the end of the day, no matter what industry, no matter what, who makes it, who doesn't in navigating business and, whatever, you name it, industry, is that decision-making, that, level of decisiveness that is needed to run a business and scale a business and expand a business, that really separates, Joe from Schmo.
Yeah, sure. No, somebody was also talking about, you can make Toyotas and you can sell 1 million cars, or you can make a Rolls Royce and you can sell a couple of cars. And what is it? What's more profitable and what?
Well, who's happier? Who's more successful?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy making the Rolls Royce probably fucking, doesn't even need to make the Rolls Royce.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's that level of who's in it for what.
Right.
But at the same time, it's back to Budweiser and,
Yeah, and Ford. When
you know.
Ford made a decision to make that production line, it was like unprecedented. Nobody could produce as many cars as they could produce, and
what a baller move too.
Yeah, right.
You know what I
right.
mean?
That investment in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he was called an idiot, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was
crazy.
called a,
Right.
he was taking jobs, and you know what I mean, and he was hurting the people.
But he was making an accessible car. That's what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
So when we come back to like quality and craft and then scalability and sustainability, that production line enabled him to make cars less expensive.
When it got people fucking cars, which is what they wanted.
Got them out of the carrot.
Right? There's a reason his product was so popular because it was needed.
Right.
There's a reason cannabis. There's so much money in cannabis is because it's needed, wanted.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things that's almost recession proof where people want their substance. People want,
did better through
Yeah.
COVID. I mean, people are at home smoking.
Well, not only just substance, there's a lot of recreational users, but to a level, all use is medicinal in a certain level. By just the wide range of elements that it helps people with.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I think the industry is not going anywhere. And I think there's lots of room for good quality companies. And I'm hoping to see, nothing but good quality companies as we kind of, reach that.
Yeah. And
peak.
tap into those new markets. Yeah. It's the housewife that is comfortable taking Xanax and drinking wine in the middle of the day and all those things that thinks cannabis is taboo. And then, once it becomes acceptable enough for her to have some, it might change.
Yeah. Well, and we're seeing it. You turn on Netflix or whatever, and there's cannabis informational shit. You know what I mean? There's sitcoms about cannabis. There's, we're really seeing that change. You've got states going legal, going full legal, recreational, adult use legal. We're seeing the stigma drop. Fuck, I told the story the other day. Went to the dispensary for some opening we were invited to for one of our clients, and me and my wife witnessed like 4 old ladies, 70 some, late 60s, early 70-year-old ladies, 4 old gals you'd see, out shopping or whatever,
Right.
4 grandmas, somebody's mom, whatever,
Right.
and they were all in there buying weed.
Yeah.
And came out all happy, all had different bags and shit. And they were, I'm guessing, going to go somewhere nice and smoke it.
Right.
And it was cool.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have even thought twice if they were at, the liquor store
Right.
buying a thing of strawberry wine or whatever to
Right.
go share. But it was really cool to see that demographic enjoying cannabis, trying cannabis, They didn't look like that was their first time. They all fucking went in and they were seasoned.
Right.
But it's cool to see that demographic so expanding so quickly, rapidly expanding.
I'm curious what they bought. You know what I mean?
Me too.
I feel like low potency actually might have a lot of value for a market that doesn't currently buy, because they don't want a shot of tequila. They want a glass of wine.
We hear that. And, right now I think the industry is super motivated and leaning towards, high THC.
Yeah.
But we hear and we get a constant request, and we don't grow, but we get a constant request for low THC strains.
Yeah, right.
They want, just a little bit of THC. They want, benefits from the other cannabinoids naturally.
Right.
They don't want to just pour a bunch of powders in their fucking coffee.
Yeah.
Of isolates. They want, benefits from the minor cannabinoids naturally, which they're minor and they're not in every strain prevalently. So these strains that are more focused on that stuff, these CBD driven strains and CBG strains and CBN strains and different stuff that you're seeing more of these minors in and less THC, are becoming more and more popular, especially with the growing market of the older people and just people that aren't just trying to get obliterated. You know what I mean?
Right.
Off the first.
Yeah.
hit.
You don't want Dr. Phil's first experience to be Snoop's blunt. You want Dr. Phil's first experience to be
fucking.
I disagree. I want that.
Yeah. You don't want to hear my,
right.
I'm just going to say, Remember how we were talking about the laced weed in the beginning? Yeah, that's what I want Dr. Phil's first experience to be. Fuck Dr. Phil. So,
sorry. You're probably right.
Yeah, it probably will be. And then fucking geez. But he'll survive just to fucking hate cannabis for the rest of his fucking life.
Right.
To reach no end, to fucking villainize the fucking the devil's lettuce.
He's a fictional character that's similar. Hank Hill. We want Hank Hill's first
experience to be fucking wonderful.
A positive one. Yeah.
Hank Hill is a great American.
Yeah, that's right. He's a patriot. But the golfer at the country club, the wealthy guy that thinks weed is for drug addicts, but you give him something that helps his arthritic elbow in his golf game. Next thing you know, he's your poster child or poster adult for.
I just think, like I said, there's quality's quality. You know, even low potency stuff. You know, we can strive towards being a quality medicine, quality product. So no, I think we should have, you know, dispensaries. I'm not a dispensary. I'm not a retail, but dispensaries should have the options for everybody. For all
market to a wider audience.
Yeah.
And focus on the quality aspect of it, because that's what's sustainable.
Well, my wife is what were you calling them? Hemperettes or whatever?
Yeah.
The CBD joints, the hemp joints.
There's an OG hemp guy up in Oregon that calls them. He's got a.
Yeah, my wife is a big proponent of those. So my wife Raven, she doesn't smoke, and I mean she's not like never smoked, but it's definitely not her thing. You know what I mean? And but she really likes the hemp joints. I think she was fucking with the ones that Future was part of. Confetti.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. So we went to a Good Life Gang meetup, and he had them, you know, out there for everybody.
Was this 2019 Vegas?
It was the mansion with the pond.
Yes, I grabbed a couple of those confetti pre-rolls myself.
So it was like towards the end of the night, and Raven had smoked one, and she really liked it.
Right.
And she's like, there was this like big old fucking tray of them.
Got a jar.
And nobody fucking took any, right? Because they'd pick them up. They're like fucking hemp. Fucking bunch of serious hash ratchets and heady level connoisseurs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? In the gang.
Yeah.
And so everybody was like, yeah, fuck these. Who brought this shit?
All right.
You know?
Right.
And like Dustin comes by and Raven's like, oh my gosh, I love these. And he's like, yeah, I'm part of the company, blah, blah, blah. You know, tells him whatever. And she's like, do you mind if I take some?
Yeah.
And Dustin's like, yeah, nobody even fucking wants them. Like, take them. Like, nobody took any.
Right.
So she grabbed like a big old fucking bundle. And she smoked on them for like a long time. And it was funny because, she didn't normally smoke joints. But there was just enough, and we always joke about, you know, Dustin's hot hemp. There was just enough
to get her a little stoned. Yeah.
THC in there just to get her a little high, and it was such a small milligrammage, but like, I mean, dude, I would see the fucking shoulders drop.
Yeah.
Like she would hit it, and you know like you'd see her physically change, and it's like you couldn't deny that she was getting some sort of benefit from it. Like it was physical.
Yeah.
You could see it. You could see her shape change in her face and everything, and just her shoulders drop. And she'd be like, I fucking love these things. I don't get paranoid. I'm not fucking freaking out. I'm not hearing the devil talk to me, but it's relieving my anxiety, my aches,
But without too much psychoactive. It's almost like the frequency, especially in this world with phones and caffeine and fucking energy drinks, it just turns that volume down a little bit. And it kind of gives you an opportunity to like, you know, unplug.
Yeah. No, shout out for the ones out there making those type of products that, you know, aren't getting people stupid stoned, but giving that light level of relief. And I think you're right. I think there's definitely needs to be a second look, a deeper look into those, you know, lower THC strains and different stuff being available for everybody.
Well, it's that nutritional aspect. It's the melatonin, right? It doesn't knock you out. It's not mushrooms, but it's something that, you know, you can benefit from.
Well, and I tell you what, you know, I've used melatonin, and if your mind's racing and you don't want to take something fucking super strong, but you do want to just go to fucking sleep, dude, melatonin fucking it does the trick, dude.
Right.
And it's one of those things, you know, you don't feel like you've taken, you know, whatever, fill in the blank,
Right.
but something stronger.
Right.
And yeah, no, I think it's all about harm reduction and just getting people relief. Life sucks. Life sucks. Getting old
tough.
sucks.
Yeah.
Like we're fucking, we get one body.
Yeah.
None of us fucking treat it right. Maybe a couple of them, but nobody, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you get to that level where something hurts, your fucking mind's not right, whatever. And I think there's such a benefit to cannabinoids and
Oh yeah.
any type.
That's what, back to one of your original questions, that's what we're passionate about, right? Like this is an amazing opportunity to bring these products to market in a legal, compliant way. Solvent Direct is here for it, man.
Well, and I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, and we don't name names here on the Pharm Table. But I guarantee you're one of the few solvent company CEOs that gives a fuck about
Thank you.
true cannabis culture, true cannabis medicine, that whole side of it. And then even understands what providing a quality product to us does for that culture, that industry.
There wasn't access.
Yeah.
So it's like the welding supplier that was the one guy that had butane, and he treats it like industrial gas instead of the high purity.
It was dirty, as oily, as gross.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. Just
rusty tanks.
Clean the dirty dishes, and
Yeah.
you can maintain a purity spec. It's not rocket science, but in industrial propane, that's how they've been doing it for 50 years.
Well, and there was never that like lab grade level. All other gases, for those that don't purchase gases, and solvents and reagents, you can usually order like instrument grade, or you can order like medical laboratory grade, whatever, beverage grade, food grade.
Mm-hmm.
There's grades of the solvent. There's never really been that food grade butane because, it just wasn't. And if it was available, it wasn't available to Joe Schmo.
And it wasn't used at scale. Like in Pam cooking spray, like there are standards for that kind of stuff, but
Correct.
that's where we as an industry need to come together and make responsible choices and set standards. That's what ASTM is all about. And I don't mean to be a cheerleader for ASTM, but it is something that I'm paying attention to because I do believe in keeping the bad headlines out and keeping quality products on the shelf.
Well, if we want the industry to sustain, what it's going to take to turn that corner, then we have to be aware of these standards that are being set forth.
Yeah.
No matter if we agree with them or not, we have to know them. We have to understand them because we're going to be, at the end of the day, there's a good chance we're going to be forced to abide by them.
Yeah.
So no, that's cool. Now I'm glad you came by.
Yeah, man.
I'm really glad that, we've got to link up and get to know each other, and I really stand behind what you guys are doing. The purity and cleanliness in what we're doing is so important, and the more companies that kind of turn that corner and start realizing that, the better the industry will be.
Thank you for the opportunity, man. This is the partnership I'm talking about, right? I mean, it's you. I'm just the guy behind the curtain. You're the brand,
bro. And at the end of the day, me, farmers, we're not fucking haters. Like you saw, like I gave you multiple numbers of my competitors today. I want them to have clean gas too. Past wanting them to have clean gas, I want you to make it worth your while coming to New Mexico.
Thank you.
Some of the numbers we're doing business with. So cool that your team's so fucking on it. I'm sure they've gotten most of the people out here, but still at the end of the day, like it means something for me to you continue to provide what you're providing, which you need business to do that. And B, the industry just needs to clean up. So if fucking me hooking up my competitor with fucking cleaner gas, fucking, helps that, cool. At the end of the day, everybody wins.
Yeah.
I win, you win, fucking.
It's abundance, right?
Yeah.
And it's a power. It's a strength, I think, to not, be negative on that kind of stuff. So, I mean, thank you. Right.
No.
But the biggest thing is thank you for the opportunity, because if it weren't for you, we wouldn't exist. Right.
Yeah.
We are here to be of service to the industry we love.
Well, you guys out there, hit up Solvent Direct. You heard he's in lots of states. So, and Lex is the kind of guy that if you call him and he's not where you're at, there's a good chance he'll figure it out. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can we find Solvent Direct?
Yeah, how do people reach you? What's your social media?
Yeah, I'd hit this at Solvent Direct Instagram. I think we're a little shadow banned. SolventDirect.com, 833 Pure Gas. Text it, call it. We have a hotline. Anybody can get through. Ilya be on the other end of that phone helping you out.
And if by chance you connect with the Solvent team and you link in, you will be taken care of. Cool. They will notify you. They'll let you know when they're coming to town, and it helps. At the end of the day, we joke about it, ha ha ha. You know, I get a lot of calls, but it fucking helps. And you know, half the time my head's in the fucking clouds. I'm thinking about a million things, and no, I don't realize we're out of solvent. You know, Cody didn't call, and Ilya saves the day. You know what I mean? And that means something. That at the end of the day, delivering on what you offer and standing behind that you know level of tenacity is stand up for sure.
Thanks, man.
So
we do it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming out. It was a hell of a time having you, and hopefully the rest of your trip in New Mexico is profitable.
I'm out tomorrow at like 6 a.m.
Well, fuck it. Hopefully today was profitable.
This was everything.
So,
thank you.
No,
yeah.
you're always welcome, man. And we look forward to Vegas and
and
having some fun out there.
We've got some exciting stuff happening.
Hell yeah.
I hope you're a part of it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Good.
All right, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.